Alright, today we're talking about fragrances that were launched in 2010. 10 fragrances that came out in 2010, and this is their 10-year anniversary. And how have these fragrances held up? Are they as significant as they once were? Do people talk about these fragrances? Are they popular? And basically, in general, I'm going to tell you what these fragrances smell like, just in case you're curious to learn about them and go check them out, you know, test them out in stores or buy samples. So, wanted to also let you know that I had planned to do a few videos about certain fragrances separately as reviews, 10-year anniversary reviews. So stay tuned for back-to-back videos on a few fragrances that we are celebrating 10 years for. But today in this video, we're talking about 10 total fragrances, and 2 of the fragrances in this video will be having their own separate 10-year anniversary videos. So if you want to find out about these 10 fragrances that are celebrating 10 years, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. Yes, we're talking about fragrances that were launched in 2010. A lot of them are very popular. Some of them don't seem to have the hype around them, but all came out in 2010. All are still available for purchase, and I'm going to give you a scoop on every single one of these. So before we get to the fragrances though, if this is your first time tuning into my channel and you still haven't subscribed, please do click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. So I've got 10 fragrances here for you, and I'm going to tell you all about them. They came out in 2010, and some of them are popular, really popular, and have loads of hype around them. Some of them do not. Some of them, I'm going to get to you, I'm going to tell you all about them. But also, as I said, I have 2 videos that are going to be back-to-back after this video on 2 of the fragrances we're going to talk to you about today that are celebrating 10-year anniversary. So the first one I'm going to talk to you about today is from the house of Frederic Malle, the first fragrance. This is A Portrait of a Lady. This is the 10-year anniversary of Portrait of a Lady, and to this day I feel like the fragrance is as hyped as it once was. But you know, I think the hype on this fragrance or around this fragrance has been gradual. I first sampled it in around 2012, and 8 years later we're celebrating 10 years. I sampled it around 2-3 years after this had launched. Probably 2 years, and I think it still holds up. It still is an excellent fragrance, and those of you that love your oriental floral fragrances or rosy fragrances, patchouli, incense, spicy, things like that, will certainly be enjoying this one. It's a fragrance that's targeted to women, but I find it to be a very unisex offering. Some of the notes in here are so potent and intense and masculine that I find it to be a very balanced fragrance. Again, the name might be off-putting to a few men, but there have been copies of this fragrance, multiple copies of this fragrance, and they have the copies have been flat-out unisex targeted fragrances, but in this particular case the name might, as I said, might turn people off. But what's Portrait of a Lady all about? For me, it is a very dark and gothic rose with lots of patchouli, smoky incense, spices of cloves. There's some cinnamony touches in here. There's some fruity touches of raspberry, some black currant, and woodsy touches of sandalwood, and maybe some sweeter touches. I do pick up some resinous touches in here. I don't think they don't give credit to the resinous touches, but I feel like there's plenty of like amber and maybe some benzoin in here, and then of course musk. That's what this fragrance is all about. I guess what I want to find out from you guys is, are you fans of Portrait of a Lady, and does it hold up today as it once did when it first launched 10 years ago? Stay tuned for a video about this fragrance. In fact, I have shot a video with Dahlia, a Zoom video, and we review this fragrance and talk about it a lot more detail. But I'm happy this fragrance is celebrating 10 years because I feel like it is a very groundbreaking fragrance for what it is. And you know, there were fragrances like this that had come before it from the designers, but I think this is very, you know, a groundbreaking fragrance for a designer, and I think it still holds up today. I feel like it's still an excellent release. I love wearing it. I love its intensity, and I love its, you know, everything about it. It's just a fantastic fragrance. It smells great to me. I love the notes. I love the way the notes work great. And I'm also a big fan of the perfumer who created it. It's Dominique Ropion, and he has done many fragrances for this house, Frederic Malle. And for me, this fragrance is definitely one of my top fragrances from this house. It used to be my number one. It's kind of teetering 1, 2, and 3 right now from this house, but what a fragrance this is. If you haven't gotten your nose on this one, it is on the pricey side. Get samples, test it out. I should say how I discovered it. I've spoken about it plenty in other videos, but I had gone into Barney's to buy Black Afghano, and this one was shown to me, and I immediately fell in love with it. It was just a love at first sniff, you know? It's like the spices, the intensity, just the concoction of the different notes, the fusion of the different notes, just amazing. The spices, the resins, the patchouli, the incense, the rose, everything about it is fantastic. So check it out. Frederic Malle, Portrait of a Lady, 10 years old. Next fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is one that's very popular for men, with men, and at one point I was told that it's probably one of the biggest selling fragrances at Neiman Marcus. That's AVENTUS from Creed. Yes, Creed AVENTUS. So what do I think about this one? For me, some of you might say, okay, why does he like this fragrance if he likes something like this? You know, there's something about Creed AVENTUS that I really love. I love its simplicity. I love its crowd-pleasing qualities. Like, I love the compliments that you get from this particular style of fragrance. And I like its popularity. I find it to be very interesting that it is a very, very successful fragrance that people have copied over and over and over. I mean, it's probably one of the most copied fragrances ever in fragrance history. It's like just being cloned to death. So that part about this fragrance gets a little annoying and a little too much. There's another part that actually kind of rubs me the wrong way. It's the batch code issue, which I don't really like to discuss. But as a fragrance itself, I feel like it's a great dumb reach fragrance. Yes, it is an expensive dumb reach fragrance, but if I want to smell great, if I want to smell fresh, and if I want the compliments and the people, the crowd-pleasing qualities of a fragrance, this definitely satisfies it. And sometimes I don't even grab this. I grab the Zara alternative, or I grab something like Hachivat, or what do you call it, from Mancera Cedar Boisé. Even though those fragrances have a lot of differences, I feel like they're kind of all in the same ballpark a bit. And I like what they stand for. I just, you know, it's a very, very pleasant smell. It smells great as a fragrance on its own. When you smell it, that smell is great. It also, projecting off of you, mixed with your own chemistry, or mixed off of somebody else's chemistry, it smells fantastic to me. There's something almost like addicting in this fragrance. Doesn't mean it's what's outside that I'm smelling, but under there, like I don't want to use the word pheromone, but something in there that I find very sexy about it. And I'm a fan of it. I love the way it smells, and it smells great on me, and it's a great, as I said, dumb reach fragrance, or something to wear in the summertime, because just the chemistry with your body chemistry, and when you're sweating a little bit and the projection happens, all of that stuff with this fragrance is excellent. But what's this fragrance known about? It's pineapple, birchwood, musk, black currant, bergamot, oakmoss, green apple, ambergris, patchouli, vanilla, jasmine, rose. For me, it's very fruity. It's considered a chypre, by the way. It's very modern chypre, a fruity chypre. Oakmoss, I guess, pretty much they call a fragrance a chypre. I don't know. Does it match other chypres? No, it doesn't, because it's very modern. It's also very masculine. I wouldn't say this is actually masculine for a woman not to wear, but I feel like it's it doesn't have the feminine qualities of feminine fragrances do. Just that's my opinion about this fragrance. But in the end, I think it's a great scent. It's a great scent. It's not a smart scent. It's not like, compare this to this. I feel like this is the smarter scent of this one. This one is just, as I said, it's a dumb reach fragrance for me, but a great smelling dumb reach fragrance, because I don't have to think about it, you know? I don't have to think about anything, because a lot of people like the way it smells. If I wear this, I have to think about it. Who am I going to be around? Are they going to be offended with the smell? Most of the time that doesn't bother me, but still I think about it. I think about my fragrance and what people are going to say. But if I'm wearing something like this, nobody really is offended by the smell, and turned off, and wants to stay away, kind of a thing. So it's a crowd pleaser. It's a very, very universally loved, is what I'm trying to say. Universally loved fragrance, appreciated by a lot. But there is a lot of drama around this fragrance, and how successful it is, and how true perfumistas are. I think it's not anything to write home about, all that good stuff. And the other thing about this fragrance is the fact that it's influenced so many other fragrances since this came out. So I guess inspiration, but similar to this, I feel like very, very popular, very, very successful fragrances, and they're still hyped to this day. In fact, I will be doing a separate video about this fragrance and their new 10-year anniversary bottle, so stay tuned for that video as well. But in the end, a lot of people hate this fragrance, but a lot of people love it. Maybe it's a little polarizing a little bit, but there's a reason why people like it, because they get compliments. It's a crowd pleaser. It does smell great, and it's actually, as I said, a dumb reach fragrance. You don't have to think about it. You just spray it on and go out on your day. So I like that part about this fragrance, but most of the time I'm planning out my fragrance, and I will, this is what I want to smell today. I want to wear this patchouli. I like to wear this amber, that kind of stuff. But when I'm rushed and I don't have time to think, this will do it for me. So that's Creed's AVENTUS. I do enjoy it. I don't have a problem with it. All right, those two fragrances are quite hyped. This next fragrance, I'm not sure is hyped. We're going to the house of Parfums de Marly. This is Godolphin. Now, there are fans of this fragrance, but I feel like when people mention Parfums de Marly, this is not it. They don't talk about this fragrance. Usually it's Layton. Usually it's Carlisle. Perhaps Herod. Maybe Wajan. But this one rarely comes up. Why? I don't know. But we are celebrating 10 years. How has it lasted to this day? In all honesty, again, it's not one of the hyped fragrances. This, to me, does smell like Tuscan leather. Slightly different. Whereas Tuscan leather has these raspberry-like qualities, this particular fragrance has more fruits rather than raspberry, but you do pick up raspberries as well. I don't get dried fruits with this one. It's more fresh fruits. So maybe, there are some apricot-like, peach-like qualities, but of course there's a little bit of like the raspberry, a little bit of prune or plum, all under there. I don't hate this fragrance, but for me, it seems like, just like with everybody else in my experience, and I've been running a YouTube channel here since 2012, not this particular one, obviously, this is my second channel, but with the comments that come up, with people's reactions, for me, this fragrance is not hyped in when you compare it to the other fragrances from this house, or something like its alternative, which probably, I think, came before this, Tuscan leather. So in the end, how has it survived 10 years? What do you guys think? I think everything I said about this is what I'm thinking about this. I feel like it's not one of the popular ones, and so I'm not sure how successful it is as a fragrance for this brand. Probably when it initially launched, it was somewhat successful for the brand, but in the end, there are so many fragrances that smell like this now. It doesn't really stand out. It doesn't have the hype factor, but I feel like it's a great scent in general. It's an alternative to Tuscan leather. It's an alternative to a few other fragrances that are similar to this, but it's just not as popular as some of the other fragrances from this house. Let me know your thoughts about this fragrance. It is targeted to men. The male bottles are like this from Parfums de Marly, but Tuscan leather is unisex. A few other fragrances similar to this are unisex, so women can totally pull this one off. Definitely leans masculine with the leather touches, but I feel like it's unisex enough for women to wear. But let me know your thoughts. What do you think about this fragrance in comparison to the other two fragrances I've already spoken about, like Portrait of a Lady and AVENTUS? What do you think about this? Does it have the same hype factor that those other two fragrances have. Also, let me know in general, do you think it's a hyped fragrance from the brand? Anyway, that's Parfums de Marly's Godolphin. So we talked about 3 fragrances. We've got 6 more to go. No, 7 more to go. So in this video, I was wanting to do a top 20 list, but I couldn't do the research or spend enough time to research to find 20 total fragrances to do a top 10. In fact, I was stuck at 9 for a while, and I had planned this video quite some time ago. Obviously, I'm doing it now because I'm doing separate videos for Portrait of a Lady and also Creed AVENTUS. So one of the fragrances I discovered at Neiman Marcus about 2013 was a fragrance from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian called Absolue Pour le Soir, this one right here. So this one I picked up last year, and I did videos about it, and I compared it to fragrances like Mitza and Serge Lutens Ambre Sultan. Mitza's from Dior, which is one of the exclusives at their boutique in Paris. So this kind of sort of goes in that direction. It's kind of a musky, resinous, balsamic amber fragrance. So it does have a little bit of that animalic touch under there, which makes it very, very sexy. It's a very, very sexy smell. Very sexy. It's the muskiness is really, really sexy in here. It kind of reminds me of a more animalic and more ambery, less sweet Musk Ravageur kind of a thing, if that makes sense to you guys. But sadly, when I went to do my research for this video, I noticed that, and I've also heard from a lot of you as comments, that they don't have stock at the Francis Kurkdjian website anymore. The page for this fragrance is there, but there's no, like, you can't purchase it. So I don't know what's going on with this fragrance, but up until earlier this year, it was available for purchase, and I'm hoping that Maison Francis Kurkdjian will bring it back. But going back to my first discovery of this one, I discovered it around the time I discovered Dior's Mitza, which was available at all Dior Privé boutiques. So I felt like at that time it was a little redundant to own this one when I had just bought Mitza, which I love. But this is fantastic. I've grown to love it even more now. And as I said, last year I picked up a bottle of it. And what I like about it is because it's an amber that's very, very musky, very resinous and balsamic. But the thing about this fragrance is I think it was never a big seller, and I think it's because of the animalic qualities, the musky qualities. It was actually shelved and put into their store and online sales only. The store as in Maison Francis Kurkdjian boutique in Paris, and online sales, because it was replaced, I think it was replaced by Grand Soir, which is phenomenally successful for them. But what I love about this one is the benzoin. The benzoin is amazing. Benzoin is one of my favorite resins. I love its sweet vanillic honeyed qualities, still like resins. There's rose honey in here, incense, Ylang-Ylang, Cumin, Atlas Cedar, and Sandalwood. Now these notes are taken directly off of Maison Francis Kurkdjian's website. There's no mention of musk, so there must be something that's thrown in here that is reacting the way it is that's musky, or there's musk in there, they're just not crediting it. I doubt it's like real musk, like real deer musk, but what a scent it is. It is fantastic. If you guys haven't got your nose on this one, and you like fragrances like Musk Ravageur, even fragrances like Mitza, Ambre Sultan, those two are not as musky as this. Or even if you like fragrances like Musk Kubla Khan, not as musky and animalic as Musk Kubla Khan, you got to check this one out. And I'm hoping and praying that they bring this back and add it to their website. I'm hoping that that it's just a shortage right now. They don't have enough juice to bottle and sell. I'm hoping. I'm really, really hoping this is the case, because it would be a sad day if they really discontinued this fragrance. So if any of you don't know this one, I know there's fans out there. When I did my video comparing this to Mitza and Ambre Sultan, a lot of you commented. Some of you went and bought bottles and ordered directly from the MFK website. But those of you that have never sampled it, do you like the idea of it? Those of you that have and are fans of it, let me know what you think about it, and I'd love to find out. But anyway, this is its 10-year anniversary. Sad to know that after after 10 years they're shelving it. I'm hoping they're not, and they bring it back and let us be able to purchase it. But anyway, that's Absolute Pour Le Soir from the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian. A fantastic fragrance. I feel like it's a masterpiece. It's one of his best creations, and I think I've heard it's his favorite, Francis Kurkdjian's favorite fragrance. Okay, this next fragrance is from the house of État Libre d'Orange. This is Tilda Swinton Like This, which came out in 2010. Now this one, in comparison to everything else I've spoken about, might not be as a popular fragrance. In fact, it might actually be more popular with women, but I feel like guys should appreciate something like this because it doesn't have any, I mean, it doesn't have like white flowers and things like that in it. It's a very dry fall autumn like fragrance for me, and the reason I get the fall autumn like qualities of this one, it has Immortelle, everlasting flower. Immortelle is a very dry flower, very hay like, very, you know, just dry like, but it has these honeyed nuances, brown sugar nuances, so those are all carried in here, which I find to be perfect for fall autumn. Get this, because it has pumpkin as a note as well. Now this is the autumn, perfect autumn fragrance, like it's like literally autumn in a bottle. So they have Immortelle, which is very dry, like dry shrubbery and things like that. That comes to mind in the fall. With this one, with the Immortelle note, pumpkin, ginger, tangerine, heliotrope, vetiver, neroli, musk, and rose. If you guys don't know this one, you gotta check it out. You gotta go check out my review on it and find out. Get a sample and discover it, because it's definitely not feminine, and I feel like most of the time when I speak about this one, only women comment about this fragrance, and I feel like men should totally embrace something like this, because in the end, it's a fall autumn in a bottle, perfect, and you can see the colors of the label right there. So has it stood the test of time? Yes. I mean, have any of these fragrances stood the test of time? I feel like this particular fragrance doesn't have the hype to begin with. The brand itself is not very hyped, not like Frederic Malle or Creed. Even a brand like Parfums de Marly, which is really, really hyped, I felt like this fragrance itself is not hyped. Maison Francis Kurkdjian as a brand, it's a very hyped brand. But Absolute Pour Le Soir, is it a hype fragrance? It was shelved because I don't think it was selling and moved to the store. So, but it has a cult following is what I'm trying to say. This particular fragrance, I'm not sure how much of a success it is. I don't know how many fans of it there are, but I feel like it's an, you know, I don't know. I don't want to say the word undiscovered gem. Maybe just something that definitely needs to be, you know, introduced to people, because it's definitely an excellent excellent release. And the reason I call it an excellent release is because it's unique. The notes are so unique. You rarely see pumpkin in a fragrance. So pumpkin, you know, it's something that's consumed in the fall, autumn, of course for Halloween, and the whole idea with that Immortelle being all dry. Ginger is a spice that's probably used in some kind of a pumpkin drink or you know, food item or something. You know, there's a spice. Throw in the tangerine and neroli, the vetiver, heliotrope, musk, rose. It's great. I feel like it's underrated, but definitely needs to be discovered. I've loved it even more. Every time I smell it, I love it and enjoy it more. And the very first time I discovered it was at the État Libre d'Orange boutique in Paris, and that's what I walked out with. I bought a bottle of this after I was there for 2 hours, and the man that was working there went over the whole entire collection. Like, he was so good at explaining their fragrances. Anyway, if you guys don't know this, definitely check it out. It's a unique fragrance, just unique because of the pumpkin note with the Immortelle, and a great fall autumn fragrance. Tilda Swinton Like This. It was I didn't mention that part. Tilda Swinton had some kind of a connection. I think they used her as, or I think it was created for her. But since then, I think the Tilda Swinton name has kind of dropped off. It's basically called Like This, because I don't see the name Tilda Swinton on it anymore. Anyway, Like This from the house of État Libre d'Orange. So this next fragrance is going to the house of Diptyque, another one that's celebrating 10 years. And of course, every single fragrance here is a 10-year anniversary fragrance. This is Eau de Well in the Eau de Toilette. Eau de Well, Eau de Toilette. So the Eau de Parfum Eau de Well came out 3 years after this. So this is 2010, this is 2013. And it's such a great spicy vanilla fragrance, guys. So if you're a fan of Spirituous Double Vanille from Guerlain, these two are different to me. Whereas Spirituous Double Vanille smells like boozy cooking vanilla, which I've cooked and used for baking things. I do a little baking here and there. This, on the other hand, has booziness, but it also has spices. It's so full of spices. So in the end, you're using boozy vanilla to cook your fall, autumn, meals, especially come Thanksgiving and other holiday, celebrations, and you're using lots of spices. That's basically what it is. So when you're mixing your vanilla with the spices and the dough and all that kind of stuff, that's what this smells like. It's a fantastic smell. Really, really is. I discovered it probably around 2013 when this particular fragrance came out. So I didn't really discover it early on, but it has also grown on me a lot. But get this, I don't know which came first, probably this. For now, I know that there are other fragrances out there in the world from brands that I feel like smell similar to this. They're not identical, but in the end, they're that vanilla with slight booziness and lots of spices kind of a thing. So this particular fragrance, loads of resins also. Vanilla, elemi resin, cardamom, juniper, olibanum. So the olibanum is the note that we discussed a few days ago. It's the incense note, the frankincense, olibanum. So there is a smoky touch in here, definitely, but it almost works like a spice. So a smoked spice. There's pink pepper, there's a little tea. It does have some tea-like qualities. There's some ambergris, bergamot, saffron, and musk. If you don't know Eau de Well, you've got to check it out. It is a great, great vanilla. I feel like it still smells great today, 10 years after. In fact, it was so popular probably, that's why they launched it, Eau de Parfum version. Now, which one do I like more? Well, the original is always great, of course, because that's the original. We're celebrating 10 years, and that's how long this one's been around. But I feel like this one is spicier and this one is smoother. Does that make sense? Things are a little more coarse in here. This is like a smoother, a soft and more blended. I don't know, I think it's the Eau de Parfum quality or the concentration of this fragrance, which makes it a little more smoother, more ambery, molasses syrup kind of a texture to it, in comparison to the original, which all the spices kind of are coarse and they kind of stand out. Don't know if you guys experience fragrances like that, but that's what I get with this one. It's a little more choppy, but still a fantastic smell, a great vanilla, probably one of the top 5, if not top 10. It's up there near the top 5. Eau de Well is a great one, and I feel like after 10 years it still smells fantastic. So that's Eau de Well from the House of Diptyque. Now let me know if you know that or any of the other fragrances I've discussed today so far. Are you enjoying this video? Would you like to see more videos like this on different years? I'm willing to do it, but I felt like 10 years ago these came out and this video needed to be done. 4 more to go, guys. I know we've done 6 fragrances so far, but 4 more to go. Okay, the next fragrance we're going to talk about is 2 fragrances that were launched as a duo. This is from a house that launches fragrances as a duo. They just recently launched number 5 series, but the one I'm talking about today is their number 3. We're talking about the House of Eccentric Molecules, and we're talking about Molecule 3. So this must be, I can't even see. Okay, this is Eccentric 3, and this is, I think this is Molecule, yeah, this is Molecule 3. So Molecule 3 and Eccentric 3 came out in 2010. It was the 3rd series of, the synthetic molecule themed fragrances. So they had Molecule 1, which focused on ISOE Super, Molecule 2, which focused on Ambroxan, Molecule 4, which focuses on Javanol, and Molecule 5, which focuses on Cashmere Wood or Cashmeran. But Molecule 3 focuses on vetiviral acetate. Vetiviral acetate basically is a vetiver synthetic molecule. Okay, for me this fragrance, sort of like Parfums de Marly's Godolphin, is the least loved. That's what I feel like. Not many people talk about this one. It doesn't have the hype when people talk about the fragrances from eccentric molecules, it's generally molecule 1 or molecule 2. My favorites are molecule 1, molecule 4, molecule 2. And then molecule 5 and molecule 3 are a little toss-up. Molecule 5 itself is very earthy. It's a cashmere wood, and it smells like mushrooms to me. So it's a very interesting earthy wood, it's earthy, ambery, musky smell. Whereas here, for me, molecule 3 with the vetiviral acetate, to me smells the strongest next to molecule 5. In fact, for me, it feels like or smells like a finished fragrance, whereas molecule 1, 2, and a little bit of 4 feels like you have to like really smell to smell the stuff. And sometimes you're anosmic to him. Molecule 3 is very, very strong. It's a pungent vetiver, earthy smell. So if you like the idea of that, you should definitely check it out, because it definitely smells like vetiver. Like, it smells like a vetiver fragrance. You don't have nose blindness or anosmia with this fragrance. It full-on smells, and I think that's just how this particular note is, vetiviral acetate. But I feel like not a lot of people talk about it, and not many. And in this video, I'm focusing on molecule 3, but both eccentric 3 and molecule 3 were launched together, obviously. And if you don't know much about the eccentrics versus the molecules, eccentrics always have other notes. With the eccentric 3, it's basically vetiviral acetate, and it also features notes like lots of citrusy lime note, ginger, black pepper, there's some tea, there's some iris, some cedar. So it's a full-on fragrance, and that's what they do with the eccentric fragrances, whereas they focus on one synthetic molecule in the molecule fragrance, and they add it here with a lot of different notes for a finished fragrance. But you know, I like the concept of this house, but I just feel like molecule 3 and eccentric 3 are kind of the duds in the whole collection. I'm not saying that this is 100% true. This is my reaction and perception of how this fragrance is appreciated throughout my experience in the fragrance community. I just see a lot of people talk about molecule 1, molecule 2, molecule 4, but the reaction of molecule 5 has been so negative from a lot of people, and then hardly any reaction from molecule 3. Anyway, has it stood the test of time? I mean, I guess it has. I don't reach for this one as much. I just feel like it smells like a finished fragrance. It doesn't feel like one of the molecules. It just feels like a lot going on in the fragrance. You know, it's like if you want Guerlain vetiver, you have Guerlain vetiver. So it doesn't act like the type of fragrance where, you know, it doesn't warm up and come kind of like elevate from the chemistry reaction like molecule 1 and molecule 2 and molecule 4 does, because in the end it smells like a fragrance you're spraying. So it's a finished product, and I think maybe that's why the reaction with some people has been like, well, it doesn't act like the other molecule fragrances. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I feel like it could be a dud, but it could still have sales. But for me, what I've seen is a lot of people talk about the other fragrances. So in the end, I'm not sure how successful this one has been. Has it stood the test of time? I don't know, but we are celebrating 10 years. It's been 10 years since these have come out. But let me know if you're a fan of Molecule 3 or Eccentric 3. And let me know in general, are you a fan of the Eccentric Molecules fragrances? What do you think about them? Next fragrance we're talking about from a house of Amouage called Memoir Man. So this is another one that's celebrating 10 years. This one actually recently was featured in a video of not so hyped fragrances that I had done. And I listed this fragrance there because in the end, the fragrances from Amouage that are hyped are usually fragrances like Interlude Man. I think Interlude Man is probably the most popular fragrance. In fact, Interlude Man I featured over the weekend in my incense fragrances video, but this one does have incense featured in it as well as a note. But for me, it doesn't act like a very incensey fragrance, even though incense is there. For me, it's a very green fragrance, lots of green notes, and also when you combine smoky incense with green notes, it just kind of like tones down the smoky incense qualities. It's there. I get more woods, like pencil shavings incense, rather than smoky incense, because it does have smoky qualities, but it also has those pencil shaving qualities as well. So in the end, for me, this one is a great fragrance because it features wormwood. Wormwood is basically absinthe. I love that note. Licorice, anise, absinthe is a fantastic note for me. And that's what I love about this one. And I feel like it's an underrated fragrance compared to all the Amouage fragrances. Now, has it stood the test of time? I feel like it has a reformulation issue as well. I don't know how intense it is compared to the original because I don't have an original to test here, but when I reviewed it and with my current bottle, I feel like it doesn't have the depth and density that it once did when I first sampled it. But we can go past that. But if you like green fragrances, if you like woodsy fragrances, dark green fragrances, because obviously the bottle is very dark. It's a dark bottle, and I feel like you have all these green notes, but they've given us a very black, dark bottle. So even though you're experiencing these green notes of wormwood and mint, you're getting a lot of darkness around it with darker notes, because there's tobacco here, there's leather, there's sandalwood, gaiac wood, lavender, vetiver, amber, oak moss. I love this fragrance. It's a great fragrance. It smells fantastic. It's not a beast fragrance for me. Definitely is not, unfortunately. But I feel like it stood the test of time. I like it. I love it, actually. But I don't think it's a fan favorite of a lot of folks that speak about Amouage. Rarely people bring this one up in comparison to something like Jubilation comes up, which I'm not a fan of. Interlude Man comes up a lot. And I think, as I said, that is probably their most popular, biggest selling fragrance. That's why they created a flanker of it with the iris. You know, other fragrances come out. Lyric Man comes up a lot, and this one rarely does. But I think it's a great scent. Let me know if you're fans of this one and what you think about it, because in the end, I really think it's a great fragrance. Next up, going to the house of Montale, another fragrance that was featured in my video over the weekend, my incense video. This is Full Incense. Now, I ranked Full Incense fairly low in that video because I was a big fan of, and I'm still a fan of, Comme des Garçons' Incense Avignon. That was one of the very first niche-y kind of fragrances that I had worn, even though it's from a designer house, a fashion house, Comme des Garçons, way back, dating back to like 2007. For me, it was a gift I had received from Lucky Scent. My sister had bought me a candle that I was a fan of, and I got these samples, and in there were all these Comme des Garçons Incense series samples, and I fell in love with Avignon, and since then I've been a fan. So this reminds me of that fragrance. That's why in that video it was ranked low. I feel like it's a Montale's version of Comme des Garçons Incense, because it really feels like a flat-out copy. But it is an intense version of that fragrance, and incense for me is a challenging note. I don't generally like to smell like church, even though I like smelling the church with the service and everything of the incense and frankincense and everything when I'm there. But I don't really like to smell like incense too much if it really does smell like church incense. Now, Comme des Garçons Incense Avignon I love because it dries vanillic and sweet on me. Some fragrances don't do that. They stay cold and stark and very like church-like for me. But I feel like, I don't know, is this fragrance a popular fragrance? A lot of people don't bring it up. It's not one of the fragrances that people talk about when they speak about Montale. Generally, Black Oud is coming up and fragrances like that. But this one's definitely not one of the fragrances. But in general, I feel like incense is not the type of fragrance that people hype too much. I don't know if that's true with you guys or not. Let me know. And also let me know, is this something that you're a fan of? Do you like full incense, or would you rather wear Comme des Garçons Incense Avignon? Because for me, they're very similar. In the end, this has notes of incense, elemi, labdanum, cedar, and patchouli. It's 10 years old, similar to Godolphin. I feel like this is not one of the more popular fragrances from this house. But in the end, it's still a great fragrance. It's just not a lot of people talk about it. Has it stood the test of time? I think it has. It smells great. It's a great smelling fragrance. It's just not one of the more popular Montale fragrances. Anyway, that's Montale's Full Incense. Let me know your thoughts on that fragrance, if you're a fan of it or not. Last but not least, we got one fragrance here. I'm going to the house of Le Labo, and this is another 13. So this is, I'm ending with this fragrance because this is fairly hyped brand. I think most of the brands here I spoke to you about are pretty hyped. There were a few brands that are not so much, but this particular house is. A lot of people do complain that their prices are expensive, and I agree. They are more expensive. There's never really deals on these fragrances. Even their refill bottle prices are on the pricey side. But another 13 is a fragrance that I've been dying to get up until the closure of the store called Colette. They launched this fragrance in 2010 as a Colette boutique exclusive. It was only the place, that was the only place you can go get it in Paris, this boutique. And I think it was in conjunction with a magazine. So I think it was called something to do with Another. That's why it's called Another 13. So when that store was closing up shop, I think they were there for 10 years. So it closed up in 2019 or 2018. I can't remember when it closed. So they closed the shop up, and what they did was they made the fragrance available everywhere. So it was, even though I went to Paris quite frequently, I never actually got to sample this fragrance, because every time I go into that store, it was always a zoo. Like, you cannot get through. People are, you know, shoulder to shoulder. So I avoided that store. But finally it's here, and I think it's a great scent. It's such a great scent. And it was one of the earliest usages of Ambroxan in a fragrance too, I think. I think it's one of the first ones. Even though Molecule 2 had come out a couple years prior with Eccentric Molecules, this came out in 2010. But what's this one all about for me? It's all about Ambroxan, Oakmoss, musky Ambrette. There are jasmine-like notes in here, some citruses, and some fruits. I get like a crisp apple or crispy, slightly juicy pear-like note in here. But for me, it's mostly about the Oakmoss, the Ambroxan, and the Ambrette. And it's a musky, sexy fragrance. I think I'm obsessed with the smell of Ambroxan. I love the way it smells, and I love the trail it leaves, and I love smelling it on people. It's just a smell that's very, very, I don't know, satisfying? Is that the word to use? I just love the way it smells. But for me, it smells better off of people. Like, if you've sprayed yourself with Ambroxan or an Ambroxan fragrance, and it's kind of blended with your chemistry, and you're kind of like projecting a little bit, that is a great smell. But this in general, I'm glad it's not shelved, like that store became like closed out. I'm glad Le Labo was able to take the fragrance and add it to their collection, because as soon as it became available here, I bought my bottle, and I'm obsessed with it. It just smells great. It's a great alternative to other fragrances that are similar to this. I feel like this kind of reminds me more of something like this fragrance from Bulgari, Tigar. The Ambroxan in there is similar to the Ambroxan in here. And then actually I have another video review of a fragrance that's featuring Ambroxan coming up this week. It reminds me of that Ambroxan as well. It doesn't remind me of the Ambroxan too much in something like Sauvage, which is really aggressive, like really, really fierce. This one has the sexy qualities to it, well, at least when you're smelling it. Sauvage might dry down to become a little sexy, but for me it's just intense, an overload. But it's a phenomenal fragrance for what it is. It's musky, it's sexy, it's woody and crisp. It's a very, very crisp fragrance, and I feel like if you're wearing a crisp white shirt with this one, great scent on a kind of like warmish day with some breezes out, because the breezes are going to, the wind hits you, and from that breeze, and then your scent is carried over to other people, and that's how you pretty much get compliments, because this is the kind of fragrance that would give you compliments. At least I compliment other people when they wear this kind of a fragrance, and I have received compliments with this kind of a fragrance as well. But I think it stood the test of time. I think it's more popular than ever. It's a great scent. It's 10 years old. It was really hard to get. Now you can get it directly from any store that sells Le Labo pretty much, because it's part of the original collection. Anyway, that's the last fragrance I'm talking to you about today. It's Another 13. Those are 10 fragrances that are celebrating 10 years. I think all of them have stood the test of time. I think some of them are not as popular or hyped. They pretty much deserve to be. But if they're not, there's reason behind it. Because, there's other fragrances that are, they've pretty much taken that ground and have claimed that spot for the popularity. For example, in Godolphin's case, Tuscan Leather. In Full Incense's case, Comme des Garçons, Avignon, and so on. Well, even the Eccentric Molecules, Molecule 3. I feel like since it's not so popular, there's other fragrances like Guerlain Vetiver or something similar to that has taken its spot, and it's not really, shining in that spot. Anyway, those are my thoughts today for these fragrances. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know other fragrances that are celebrating 10 years. I know it's the end of the year, and I know, as I said, I planned this video out a little earlier, but it somehow ended up to be that I got 2 more videos about fragrances that are celebrating 10 years. Of course, Creed's AVENTUS, and then Portrait of a Lady. Portrait of a Lady 10-year anniversary review is done with Dahlia. Stay tuned for that video. And of course, For this fragrance, I am actually going to be speaking about the 10-year anniversary bottle. Anyway guys, thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Otherwise, please like this video, please share it, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.